first time I met Tom, he was helping Mrs. Chen carry her groceries up the stairs. His smile was warm, genuine, the kind that made you instantly trust someone. I just moved into the apartment complex with my two kids, Emma, who was 7, and Lucas, who was 5, after finalizing my divorce. Starting over in a new city felt overwhelming, but seeing that act of kindness gave me hope that maybe we'd found the right place. "You must be the new neighbor," he said, setting down Mrs. Chen's bags and extending his hand. "I'm Tom, 3B. Welcome to the building." His handshake was firm but gentle. He had this way of looking at you when he spoke, like you were the only person in the world that mattered. I introduced myself as Sarah and mentioned my kids, who were hiding behind my legs, still shy in their new environment. "Emma and Lucas," I said, gently nudging them forward. "Say hi to Mr. Tom." What happened next should have been my first warning sign, but I was too exhausted from the move, too grateful for a friendly face to notice. Tom crouched down to their level, not in that awkward way most adults do with children, but naturally, like he'd done it 1,000 times before. He pulled out 2 lollipops from his pocket. "I always keep these handy for the little ones in the building," he explained, looking up at me for permission. "Is it okay?" I nodded, touched by his thoughtfulness. Emma took hers eagerly, while Lucas remained cautious, clutching my hand tighter. "You know," Tom said, still at their eye level, "I used to have kids just about your age. They loved building forts. Maybe sometime we could build one together?" Emma's eyes lit up. She'd been obsessed with forts since she was 3. It felt like fate, finding someone who understood kids in our new building. Someone safe, someone trustworthy. Over the next few weeks, Tom became our guardian angel. When I was running late from my new job at the marketing firm, he'd already be there, helping Emma with her homework in the lobby. When Lucas fell off his bike and scraped his knee, Tom appeared with a first aid kit before I could even get downstairs. He never asked for anything in return, always waving off my attempts to pay him or return the favor. "Single parents need to stick together," he'd say with that disarming smile. "I know how hard it is." He mentioned his ex-wife had moved across the country with his children after their divorce. The pain in his eyes when he talked about missing his kids' birthdays and school plays was so raw, so real. I found myself opening up to him about my own divorce, about how David had chosen his 23-year-old assistant over his family, about the crushing weight of doing everything alone. "You're not alone," Tom said one evening as we watched the kids play in the courtyard. "You've got me now." The way he said it made me feel safe for the first time in months. Here was someone who understood, who'd been through the same pain, who genuinely wanted to help with no ulterior motives. When he offered to babysit so I could attend a crucial client dinner, I didn't hesitate. "Are you sure?" I asked, though I was already mentally accepting. "They can be a handful, especially at bedtime." "Sarah," he said, placing a reassuring hand on my shoulder, "I told you about my kids, right? This actually helps me too. I miss being a dad." That night, I came home to find my apartment cleaner than I'd left it, the kids bathed and in their pajamas, and Tom reading them their favorite story. Emma was curled up against him on the couch, Lucas on his other side, both of them hanging on every word of Where the Wild Things Are. "Mommy!" Emma jumped up when she saw me. "Tom does the voices just like Daddy used to?" My heart clenched. David had been many things, but an involved father wasn't one of them. He'd rarely read to them, always too busy with work, or his assistant, as I later discovered. "Better than Daddy," Lucas added quietly, and something flickered across Tom's face. Satisfaction, maybe? But it was gone so quickly I convinced myself I'd imagined it. 3 months into our friendship, Tom had become indispensable. He picked the kids up from school when I had meetings, cooked dinner when I worked late, and even attended Lucas's soccer games when I couldn't make it. The other parents assumed he was my boyfriend, and I stopped correcting them. It was easier than explaining, and honestly, part of me liked the idea that people thought we were together. But I wasn't ready for a relationship. The divorce had left me raw, suspicious of men and their intentions. Tom seemed to understand this without me having to say it. He never pushed, never made a move, never made me feel uncomfortable. He was just there. Reliable. Safe. The first real change I noticed was in Emma. She'd always been chatty, telling me everything about her day, her friends, her thoughts. But suddenly, she had secrets. "What did you and Tom do today?" I asked one evening after he'd watched them. "Just stuff," she said, not meeting my eyes. "What kind of stuff?" "Tom says it's our special time. He says you're too busy to understand our games." Something cold settled in my stomach. "Honey, you can tell me anything. You know that, right?" She nodded but didn't elaborate. When I tried asking Lucas, he just shrugged and said they played games. Normal kid stuff, I told myself. Tom was giving them attention. I couldn't always provide. They were bonding. This was good. But then came the gifts. Not obvious ones. Tom was too smart for that. Little things that would appear in their backpacks. A special pencil for Emma that she said Tom gave her for being his special girl. A tiny toy car for Lucas that he was told to keep secret because Mommy might get jealous. When I confronted Tom about it, he looked genuinely confused. Gifts? Sarah, I might have given them some school supplies but nothing secret. Kids have such imaginations, don't they? Emma's probably just making up stories to feel special. It's common after divorce. He said it so reasonably, with such concern, that I felt foolish for questioning him. Of course, the kids were acting out. Their whole world had changed. Tom was the stable male figure they craved, and they were probably testing boundaries. The Spanish conversation started a month later. Tom had mentioned he was teaching the kids some Spanish. It's such an advantage to be bilingual these days, he'd said. I'd thought it was wonderful. What I didn't know was that he was teaching them to speak it when I was around, creating a secret language I couldn't understand. I walked in on them one day, all three huddled together, whispering rapidly in Spanish. They stopped the moment they saw me. "What were you talking about?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. "Tom's teaching us about Mexico," Emma said quickly. "About the beaches and the food." Tom stood up, ruffling her hair. "These two are natural linguists. You should be proud, Sarah." But there was something in the way Emma looked at him before answering me, like she was checking if her response was acceptable. Something in the way Lucas moved closer to Tom, as if seeking protection from me. That night, after Tom left, I sat Emma down. "Sweetheart, you know you can tell me anything Tom says or does, right? Even if he says it's a secret?" Emma's face went pale. "Tom says you might try to make us not like him because you're jealous. He says all mommies get jealous when their kids love someone else." "Emma, that's not. He says you'll try to take him away from us like you took Daddy away." My blood ran cold. "Honey, I didn't take Daddy away. Daddy chose to leave." "That's not what Tom says," she whispered, and ran to her room. I sat there, stunned, trying to process what was happening. Tom was poisoning my children against me. But why? What could he possibly gain? I thought about confronting him directly, but something held me back. The way he'd twisted my concern into jealousy with Emma, the way he'd positioned himself as their protector, he was too calculated. Too prepared. If I came at him directly, he'd have a counter-narrative ready. I decided to watch and wait, documenting everything. But Tom must have sensed my suspicion because suddenly he became even more helpful, even more present. He started a homework club for the building's kids in his apartment, invited other parents, made everything public and above board. The other neighbors loved him. "You're so lucky to have Tom," Mrs. Chen told me one day. "He's like a father to those kids." That phrase, "like a father," began to haunt me. Because that's exactly what he was becoming. And not in a helpful uncle way. He was systematically replacing me as the primary parent in my children's eyes. The turning point came when Lucas got sick. Just a stomach bug, but he was miserable. I stayed home from work to take care of him, but when I brought him soup, he pushed it away. "I want Tom's soup," he whined. "Tom's not here, baby. Mommy's soup is just as good." No, he actually threw the bowl, something he'd never done before. "Tom says his soup has special medicine that makes kids better. Yours doesn't work." I cleaned up the mess, fighting tears. When had my 5-year-old started believing a neighbor over his own mother? When had Tom's opinion become more valuable than mine? That afternoon, while Lucas slept, I did something I'm not proud of. I went through Emma's room. Hidden in her jewelry box, I found a phone. A cheap, prepaid flip phone with only one number programmed into it. Tom. The text messages made my skin crawl. "Tom, remember this is our special secret phone. Mommy doesn't understand our friendship." "Emma, okay." "Tom, if Mommy ever makes you sad or scared, you call me right away." "Emma." She yelled at Lucas today. "Tom, poor boy. Sometimes mommies don't know how to control their tempers, but I'll always protect you both." There were dozens of messages, each one carefully crafted to undermine me, to position himself as their savior. He was building a case that I was an unfit mother, using my own children as witnesses against me. I wanted to scream, to burst into his apartment and demand answers, but I knew that would play right into his hands. He'd paint me as unstable, jealous, exactly what he'd been telling the kids. Instead, I called my sister Beth in California. "Something's wrong," I told her, "really wrong." I explained everything, and the silence on the other end grew longer with each detail. "Sarah," she finally said, "you need to get the kids away from him. Now. I can't just move again. I just started this job. The kids are finally settled in school. Then you need evidence, real evidence. Because this sounds like, Sarah, this sounds like he's trying to take your kids." The words hung in the air, too terrible to fully comprehend. Take my kids? How? Why? But even as I asked myself these questions, the pieces were falling into place. The comments about being a father, the way he'd inserted himself into every aspect of their lives, the secret phone, the alienation tactics. Tom wasn't trying to help. He was trying to steal my children. That night, I pretended everything was normal. Tom came by to check on Lucas, bringing his special soup. I watched him feed my son, watched the way Lucas looked at him with such trust and admiration, and I wanted to vomit. "Thank you," I forced myself to say. "You're so good with them." Tom smiled. That same warm smile that had fooled me months ago. "They're special kids, Sarah. They deserve the best." The way he said it, the slight emphasis on deserve, he was telling me I wasn't the best. That he was. I started learning Spanish using a language app, practicing late at night with headphones so the kids wouldn't know. I needed to understand what Tom was telling them in their secret conversations. Meanwhile, I maintained the facade of normalcy, even asking Tom to babysit more often, playing the overwhelmed single mother he expected me to be. What I was really doing was setting up cameras. Tiny ones I ordered online, hidden in stuffed animals and picture frames. If Tom was going to make a move, I needed to catch it. The first few recordings were benign. Homework help, snack time, normal babysitter stuff. But on the fourth night, I caught gold. Or rather, horror. Tom had the kids on his lap, speaking in Spanish. Thanks to my crash course, I could understand most of it. Your mommy loves you, but she's sick, he was saying. Sometimes mommies get so tired they can't take care of their children properly. That's why I'm here. Is mommy going to die? Lucas asked in Spanish, his voice small and scared. No, little one. But sometimes, when mommies are too sick, the children go to live with someone who can take better care of them. Someone like me. Emma was playing with Tom's hand, tracing the lines on his palm. Would we live here with you? Maybe. Or maybe somewhere even better. A house with a big yard, a dog, a pool. Wouldn't that be nice? But what about mommy? Emma asked. Mommy could visit. When she's feeling better. When she learns how to be a good mommy. I had to pause the video to run to the bathroom and throw up. This man, this monster I'd let into our lives, was preparing my children for me to lose custody. He was grooming them to accept it, even want it, but the worst was yet to come. On another recording, from a day I'd worked late, Tom was showing the kids photos on his phone. This was my house, he said. Before. It's pretty, Emma said. Where are your kids? They were taken away, Tom said sadly. By someone who didn't understand that I was a good daddy. That's mean, Lucas exclaimed. Very mean. But you know what? I think God sent me you two. To be my new children. Would you like that? Both kids nodded enthusiastically, and my heart shattered. In just a few months, he'd turned them so completely that they were eager to be his children. I called Beth again, this time from my car where I knew the kids couldn't hear. I have videos, I told her. He's telling them he wants to be their father. That's enough for a restraining order, she said immediately. Go to the police. But when I consulted with a lawyer the next day, the news wasn't encouraging. He hasn't done anything illegal, she told me. Inappropriate? Yes. Crossing boundaries? Absolutely. But telling kids he'd like to be their father isn't a crime. And given that you've been allowing him to babysit regularly, it would be hard to prove you felt he was a threat. He's trying to take my children. I understand your concern. But from a legal standpoint, he's been helping a single mother with childcare. Unless he makes an actual attempt to take them or harm them, our options are limited. I left her office feeling more hopeless than ever. The law couldn't help me until it was too late. I had to handle this myself. That evening, Tom knocked on my door with a container of cookies. Emma mentioned you seemed stressed, he said, concern etched on his face. Everything okay? I forced a smile. Just work stuff, you know how it is. He studied me for a moment, and I saw something shift in his eyes, a calculation, a decision being made. Sarah, can I be honest with you? He stepped inside without invitation, closing the door behind him. I'm worried about you. The kids have mentioned you've been struggling, crying at night, forgetting to pack their lunches. Emma said you forgot to pick her up from dance class last week. I hadn't forgotten. Tom had told Emma he was picking her up and never informed me, but Emma had corroborated his version of events when I'd asked her about it. I think you might be depressed, he continued. It's nothing to be ashamed of. But the kids, they need stability. There it was. The first open salvo in his war. I appreciate your concern, I said carefully, but I'm fine. The kids are fine. Tom stepped closer, and for the first time, I felt physically threatened by him. Not because he made any aggressive move, but because of the absolute certainty in his eyes. Are they though? Lucas told me he's been having nightmares. Emma says she has to make her own breakfast most mornings because you won't get out of bed. Lies. All lies that my children had apparently confirmed. How deep did this go? How thoroughly had he turned them against me? I think you should leave, I said quietly. Tom nodded. But before he opened the door, he turned back. Sarah, I care about those kids like they're my own. If you ever need a more permanent solution for their care, I want you to know I'm here. After he left, I deadbolted the door and called Beth. I'm flying out, she said immediately. This has gone too far. While I waited for Beth to arrive, I kept recording. Tom's behavior escalated quickly after our confrontation. He started showing up uninvited, always when the kids were home, always with treats or activities planned. When I tried to say no, the kids would have meltdowns. You're so mean, Emma screamed one day when I wouldn't let her go to Tom's apartment. Tom says you're jealous because we love him more. Tom says, I snapped. I'm your mother. I wish you weren't, she screamed back, and ran to her room. Lucas stood in the hallway, tears streaming down his face. Why can't Tom be our daddy? That night, I found Tom in the hallway, clearly having heard the entire exchange through the thin walls. Rough evening, he asked sympathetically. Stay away from my children. His mask slipped for just a second, and I saw something cold and calculating underneath. Sarah, you're being irrational. The children need me. You need me. Fighting this will only hurt them. Is that a threat? It's an observation, he said calmly. Courts tend to favor stable environments for children. And right now, you don't seem very stable. There it was, the endgame. He wasn't trying to kidnap them. He was going to use the system to take them legally. Paint me as an unfit mother, position himself as the stable alternative, maybe try to get temporary guardianship, then adoption. It was brilliant in its evil. Beth arrived 2 days later, and having her there gave me strength. We developed a plan. She would pretend to be visiting for a normal family visit, get close to Tom, and help me gather more evidence. Tom was delighted to meet her, turning on the charm full force. But Beth wasn't buying it. There's something off about him, she told me that first night. The way he looks at the kids, it's possessive. We started tag teaming. While Beth distracted Tom with conversation, I searched his apartment. What I found confirmed my worst fears. He had a file on me, photos of me at work, at the grocery store, even through my apartment windows, notes about my schedule, my habits, my neglectful parenting. He'd been building a case for months. There were also legal documents, paperwork for emergency custody, already partially filled out, just waiting for the right moment. But the most chilling discovery was a letter, handwritten, addressed to Emma and Lucas. My dear children, by the time you read this, we'll be together forever. Your mother tried her best, but some people aren't meant to be parents. I know you're scared now, but soon you'll understand that everything I did was for you. Love, Dad. Dad. He was already calling himself their dad. I took photos of everything, my hands shaking. This was evidence of premeditation, planning. Surely this would be enough. But when I got back to my apartment, Tom was inside with the kids. They were all on the couch, the children cuddled up to him while Beth stood awkwardly by the door. He had a key, Beth said, her voice tight. Emma gave it to him. Tom looked up at me with that same warm smile. Sarah, we were just about to watch a movie. Join us? The audacity of him, sitting in my home uninvited, acting like he belonged there more than I did. And the way the kids were clinging to him, like he was their life raft and I was the storm. Kids, go to your rooms, I said firmly. But Mom Emma started. Now. They reluctantly got up, but not before hugging Tom goodnight. He whispered something to each of them in Spanish, and they nodded solemnly before leaving. Once they were gone, I turned to Tom. Get out, and give me that key. He stood slowly, reaching into his pocket and pulling out the key, but he didn't hand it to me. He placed it on the coffee table, making me come to him to get it. Sarah, this hostility isn't good for the children. They're already so confused, so hurt by your behavior. My behavior? I laughed bitterly. You've been manipulating them for months. I've been caring for them while you've been falling apart. His voice was still calm, reasonable. It was infuriating. Ask anyone in this building. Ask their teachers. Who shows up to parent-teacher conferences? Who helps with homework? Who comforts them when they're scared? Because you've turned them against me. He shook his head sadly. Sarah, listen to yourself. Paranoid accusations, irrational anger. This is exactly what I've been documenting. Documenting? I have a responsibility to those children. If their mother is having a mental health crisis, someone needs to be looking out for their welfare. Beth stepped forward. You need to leave. Now. Tom looked at her with pity. Enabling her delusions won't help anyone. He walked to the door, then paused. Sarah, I'm giving you 1 week to get help. After that, I'll have to contact Child Protective Services. For the children's sake. After he left, I collapsed on the couch. Beth held me while I sobbed. We have evidence, she kept saying. We'll stop him. But that night, things got worse. Emma had another secret phone, hidden better this time. She'd been recording me. Recording my argument with Tom, my irrational behavior, my crying breakdown after he left. She'd sent it all to him. When I confronted her about it, she was defiant. Tom says we need proof that you're sick, she said matter-of-factly. So the judge will let us live with him. Emma, Tom is not your father. He's not even family. He loves us more than you do, she screamed. You only love your stupid job. Tom says you probably didn't even want us. Every word was like a knife. My 7-year-old daughter had been completely brainwashed. And Lucas. Lucas just watched from his doorway, clutching a teddy bear Tom had given him. The next morning, I did something I'd been avoiding. I contacted David, my ex-husband. Despite everything, he was still their father. Maybe his involvement would change things. Sarah? He sounded surprised to hear from me. Is everything okay? I explained the situation, expecting. I don't know what I expected. Concern? Anger that another man was trying to replace him? Instead, he sighed. Sarah, are you sure you're not overreacting? The kids mentioned Tom when I called last month. They seemed happy. You've talked to them about Tom? They talk about him constantly. Honestly, it's good they have a stable male figure. I know I haven't been present. Even my ex-husband was taking Tom's side. I was completely alone except for Beth. That evening, Tom organized a building barbecue in the courtyard. Everyone was invited except me, though he made it seem like I'd chosen not to attend. I watched from my window as my children played with the other kids. Tom supervising like a proud father. The other parents chatted with him, laughed at his jokes, praised him for being so good with all the children. He was building witnesses, character references, an entire building full of people who would testify what a wonderful guardian he'd be. Beth watched with me. He's smart. Really smart. I know. But he's also arrogant. He thinks he's already won. That's going to be his mistake. She was right. Tom was so confident in his plan that he was getting bolder. That night, he crossed a line that gave us everything we needed. I woke at 3 a.m. to the sound of my front door opening. I'd installed a chain lock after the key incident, so it only opened a few inches, but someone was definitely trying to get in. Beth and I crept out of my bedroom. Through the crack in the door, we could see Tom, working at the chain with some kind of tool. "Call 911, I whispered to Beth, but she was already dialing. Tom must have heard something because he stopped, and we heard footsteps retreating quickly down the hall. By the time the police arrived, he was back in his apartment, probably in bed, playing innocent. The officers were skeptical. Without proof it was Tom, they couldn't do anything. But Beth had been recording on her phone. We had his face, clear as day, trying to break into my apartment. "We'll file a report," one officer said. "You should consider a restraining order," but I knew a restraining order would escalate things. Tom would spin it as me being unstable, trying to keep the children from someone they loved. I needed to be smarter. The next morning, Tom acted like nothing had happened. He knocked on my door with his usual smile, offering to take the kids to school. "I don't think that's a good idea," I said. "Sarah, the children are going to be late. Are you really going to punish them because of your issues with me?" From behind me, Emma called out, "Please, Mom, Tom always gets us McDonald's breakfast on Fridays." Another thing I didn't know about. Another secret tradition that made him the fun one and me, the mean mom who said no. "Fine," I said, knowing I needed to keep him confident while Beth and I planned our next move. That day, while the kids were at school and Tom was at whatever job he claimed to have, Beth and I broke into his apartment. Illegal? Yes. Necessary? Absolutely. What we found was worse than I imagined. He had a shrine, there's no other word for it, dedicated to my children. Photos covering an entire wall, some taken without my knowledge. Pictures of them sleeping, playing, at school. How long had he been watching us before he'd even introduced himself? There were also legal documents, more detailed than what I'd found before. Adoption papers with my signature forged. A will leaving everything to my children, Emma and Lucas. Medical forms claiming to be their father. But the most disturbing find was a journal. Pages and pages of fantasies about being their father, about raising them properly. Detailed plans for discrediting me, for making me seem unstable. He'd been planning this for over a year, since before we'd even moved in. We weren't random targets. He'd known we were coming. He'd researched us, found out about the divorce, positioned himself to be there when we arrived. One entry stood out. Day 127. "The boy called me daddy by accident today." Sarah didn't hear, but Emma did. She looked scared. I told her it was okay, that soon it wouldn't be an accident. She's the harder one to convince, but she's also the key. Once Emma accepts me, Lucas will follow. And once they both choose me over her, no court will deny me custody. The mother is weak, broken from her divorce. It won't take much to push her over the edge. I photographed everything while Beth kept watch. We had him. We finally had enough to stop him. But when we got back to my apartment, both kids were home. School had let out early for a teacher planning day, something Tom had apparently known but hadn't told me. "Where were you?" Emma demanded. "Tom had to pick us up. The school couldn't reach you." I checked my phone, no missed calls, but Emma showed me hers, the secret phone, with multiple calls from the school. Tom had given them his number as the primary contact. "This has to stop," I told them, sitting them down for a serious talk. "Tom is not your parent. He's not your family. He's a neighbor who has been lying to you." "You're the liar," Emma screamed. "Tom showed us the papers. You're trying to give us away because you don't want us anymore." "What papers?" Lucas piped up. "The ones where you signed us over to foster care. Tom saved us." My blood ran cold. He'd shown them forged documents, made them believe I was abandoning them. No wonder they clung to him. They thought he was saving them from being given away. "Those papers are fake," I said desperately. "I would never give you away." Never. But they didn't believe me. How could they? For months, Tom had been the stable one, the fun one, the one who was always there. I was just the stressed, angry mother who was trying to tear them away from their savior. That night, I made a decision. We were leaving. I'd pack up the kids and go to Beth's in California. Start over again. Somewhere Tom couldn't follow. I waited until they were asleep, then started packing quietly. Beth helped, both of us working in silence, loading bags with essentials. We'd leave first thing in the morning, before Tom even knew we were gone. But at 2 a.m., Emma woke up. She saw the bags and started screaming. "She's taking us away! Tom, help!" Before I could stop her, she was at the window, banging on it, screaming for Tom. Lucas woke up and joined her, both of them hysterical. "Please don't take us away from Tom," Lucas sobbed. "We'll be good, we promise." Neighbors started turning on lights, looking out windows. And of course, Tom appeared in the courtyard, looking up at our window with concern. "Everything okay up there?" he called out. "She's kidnapping us," Emma screamed. Within minutes, Tom was at our door with several concerned neighbors. Mrs. Chen looked at me with suspicion. "Sarah, what's going on?" The children seemed terrified. "We're just taking a trip," I said desperately. "To visit my sister." At 2 a.m., Mr. Rodriguez from 4C asked. With the kids screaming, Tom stepped forward, all concern and responsibility. "Sarah, if you need some time away, I can watch the kids. There's no need to uproot them in the middle of the night." "Absolutely not." "Mom, please." Emma clung to Tom. "We want to stay with Tom." The neighbors exchanged glances. Here I was, looking deranged in my pajamas, trying to drag 2 crying children away in the middle of the night, while Tom stood there calm and reasonable, offering to help. "Maybe we should call someone," Mrs. Chen suggested quietly. "That won't be necessary," Beth intervened. "We're just taking a family trip." But the damage was done. By morning, the entire building thought I'd had some kind of breakdown. Tom had won this round. The next day, Child Protective Services showed up. Someone had made an anonymous complaint about a mother trying to abduct her own children in an unstable state. The social worker, Miss Martinez, was kind but thorough. She interviewed me, the kids, and Tom separately. I showed her the evidence I'd gathered, but Tom had explanations for everything. The photos? He was a photography enthusiast who loved capturing childhood moments with permission. The journal? Fiction writing for a novel he was working on. The legal documents? Templates he'd downloaded for a friend going through custody issues. Meanwhile, Emma and Lucas told her how wonderful Tom was, how scared they were of me lately, how I'd been acting strange and angry. They showed her the videos Emma had taken of me crying, yelling, seeming unstable. "Mrs. Parker." "Miss," Martinez said finally, "I don't see any immediate danger to the children, but I am concerned about the family dynamic. I'm going to recommend family counseling and periodic check-ins." After she left, Tom knocked on my door. "I didn't call them," he said, which meant he definitely had. "But Sarah, this has to stop. Your paranoia is hurting the children." "I know what you're doing," I said quietly. "I know everything." He smiled then, a different smile than his usual warm one. This was cold, predatory. "Do you? Then you know I've already won. The children love me. The neighbors trust me. The system believes me. You can keep fighting. But all you're doing is proving how unfit you are." "Why?" I asked. "Why my children?" For a moment, his mask completely dropped. "Because they were meant to be mine. Because their real father doesn't deserve them and neither do you. Because I can give them everything. Love, stability, a real home." "You're insane." "No, Sarah, I'm a father without his children, and soon, that will be corrected." He left, and I stood there shaking. He'd just confessed, but I hadn't been recording. It was his word against mine, and everyone believed him. That's when Beth had an idea. "He doesn't know I speak Spanish," Beth said. "You mentioned he speaks to the kids in Spanish, thinking you don't understand. But he doesn't know about me." It was brilliant. Beth would pretend to be on his side, sympathize with him about my instability, and get him to confess while secretly recording. The next day, Beth approached Tom in the hallway while I was at work. "I'm worried about Sarah," she told him. "She's always been fragile. The divorce really broke her." Tom was immediately interested. "How long has she been struggling?" "Since childhood, really. Our parents always worried she wouldn't be able to handle adult responsibilities. I've been thinking maybe the kids would be better off with someone more stable." Tom's eyes lit up. "You're a good sister, thinking of what's best for them." "I just want them to be happy," Beth sighed. "They seem so happy with you." Over the next few days, Beth played her role perfectly. She'd have coffee with Tom, lamenting my mental state, praising his dedication to the children. Tom ate it up, becoming more open with each conversation. Meanwhile, I maintained my paranoid, unstable persona for the neighbors, making Tom look even more like the stable alternative. It killed me to have my children look at me with fear and disappointment, but I knew it was temporary. It had to be. 3 days into Beth's performance, Tom made his move. He invited her to his apartment while the kids were at school, saying he wanted to show her something important. "I need someone on my side," he told her, pulling out a folder. "Someone who can testify that I'm what's best for Emma and Lucas." The folder contained his entire plan, laid out in meticulous detail: the forged documents, the recordings, even a timeline for when he'd file for emergency custody. "Once Sarah has another public breakdown and I'll petition the court. With the CPS reports, the neighbor testimonies, and your statement about her history of instability, I'll get temporary custody. After that, adoption is just paperwork." Beth recorded everything on her phone, hidden in her pocket. "But what about their real father?" she asked. Tom scoffed. "David? He's already signed preliminary papers giving up his parental rights. Told him Sarah was planning to move to Europe, and he'd never see them again unless he signed them over to a stable guardian. He believed it immediately." "You've thought of everything," Beth said, and Tom preened at the compliment. I've been planning this for 18 months, he admitted. Ever since I saw Sarah's divorce filing online, public records are so useful. I knew she'd need a fresh start, knew she'd pick this building. It was the only one in her price range near the good school district. All I had to do was wait. And the children? Tom's expression softened in a disturbing parody of paternal love. They're perfect. Emma is brilliant, just needs proper guidance. Lucas is so eager to please, so easy to mold. They'll be wonderful once they're mine. Then, in Spanish, thinking Beth wouldn't understand, he added, La madre es débil. Pronto los niños serán míos para siempre. The mother is weak. Soon the children will be mine forever. Beth responded in perfect Spanish, ¿Y si ella lucha? And if she fights? Tom, shocked but recovering quickly, replied still in Spanish, Then I'll destroy her. I have enough evidence to have her committed if necessary. A mental breakdown. Danger to herself and others. She'll never see them again. Beth stood up slowly. I need to think about all this. Of course, Tom said, but his eyes were suspicious now. Beth, you do want what's best for the children, don't you? Absolutely, she said, and left. That night we took everything to the police. The recordings, the documents, the evidence of Tom's year-and-a-half stalking campaign. This time, they took it seriously. We'll need to move carefully, Detective Morrison told us. If he suspects we're onto him, he might run with the children. They arranged for Tom to be arrested at his work the next day, away from the kids and the building. Beth and I would pick up the children from school and take them to a safe location before Tom could be released on bail. But that morning, Tom didn't go to work. He knocked on my door at 7 a.m. Sarah, the school called. There's been an incident with Emma. My heart stopped. What kind of incident? She's saying she wants to hurt herself if she can't live with me. They're asking both of us to come in. I knew it was a trap, but I couldn't risk it if Emma was really in danger. I called Detective Morrison on the way, telling him the situation. We'll have units standing by, he assured me. At the school, Emma was in the counselor's office, crying hysterically. When she saw Tom, she ran to him, clinging to him like a lifeline. Please don't let her take me away, she sobbed. I'll die without you, Tom. I'll die. The school counselor looked grave. Mrs. Parker, Emma has expressed some very concerning thoughts. She seems to have an unhealthy attachment to Mr. Williams. Tom held Emma, looking at me over her head with triumph in his eyes. He'd coached her, taught her exactly what to say to trigger a psychiatric hold, to make me look like the danger. But then Beth walked in with Detective Morrison and 2 uniformed officers. Tom Williams, you're under arrest for stalking, harassment, forgery, and conspiracy to commit custodial interference. Tom's face went white. Emma screamed, reaching for him as the officers pulled him away. No. You can't take him. Mommy, stop them. Please. It was horrific. My daughter truly believed she was losing her savior. Lucas, who'd been brought in from his classroom, started crying too, begging the police not to take Tom away. The other parents in the office stared at me like I was a monster, tearing a beloved figure away from children who adored him. The aftermath was harder than the battle itself. Tom was released on bail within 24 hours, though a restraining order kept him away from us. But the damage was done. Emma and Lucas blamed me entirely. They refused to eat, refused to go to school, refused to speak to me except to scream that they hated me. The court case would take months. Tom had hired an expensive lawyer, still maintaining his innocence, still claiming I was an unstable mother trying to keep him from children who loved him. The forged documents were explained away as misunderstandings. The journal was creative writing. Even the break-in was disputed. His lawyer claimed Tom was checking on the children after hearing concerning noises. But we had the recordings, Beth's conversation with Tom, where he admitted to planning everything, where he said he'd destroy me, where he revealed his 18-month stalking campaign. That was harder to explain away. During this time, I had to rebuild my relationship with my children from scratch. They went to therapy, but progress was slow. Emma, especially, had been so thoroughly manipulated that she couldn't distinguish Tom's lies from reality. He showed me the papers, she kept insisting. You were going to give us away. It took weeks for the therapist to help her understand that the documents were fake, that Tom had lied to her. Even then, she struggled with the betrayal. The man she'd trusted completely, who she'd loved like a father, had been using her. Lucas bounced back quicker, as 5-year-olds do. Once Tom wasn't there daily reinforcing the narrative, Lucas started remembering how things were before. He started coming to me for comfort again, letting me read him bedtime stories. 3 months into therapy, Emma finally broke down. I gave him the videos of you crying, she sobbed in my arms. I helped him hurt you. I'm so sorry, Mommy. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault, baby. None of this is your fault. He said you didn't really love us. He said we were a burden to you. He said so many things. And I believed them all. He's a very sick man who's very good at lying, I told her. Even I believed him at first. The trial was brutal. Tom's lawyer painted me as a jealous, unstable woman who couldn't handle her children bonding with a male figure. They brought in the neighbors as character witnesses for Tom. They showed videos of the children begging not to be taken from him. But our evidence was stronger. The recordings were damning. The forensic computer analyst found evidence that Tom had been researching custody law, forgery techniques, and psychological manipulation tactics for over a year. They found the website where he'd tracked my divorce proceedings, my job search, even my apartment hunting. The real breakthrough came when Detective Morrison found Tom's previous victims, two other single mothers in different states with eerily similar stories. Tom would insert himself into their lives, turn their children against them, attempt to gain custody. One had lost her children for 6 months before Tom's scheme was discovered. The other had fled the state with her kids, living in hiding. Both women testified. Their stories, combined with our evidence, painted a clear picture of a predator who targeted vulnerable families. Tom was convicted on multiple charges. He got 7 years in prison, though he'd probably be out in 4 with good behavior. The restraining order would be permanent. He could never contact us again. But the scars remained. Emma had nightmares for months, sometimes calling out for Tom, sometimes terrified he was coming back. She struggled with trust, wondering how she could have been so wrong about someone. At 7 years old, she'd learned that monsters don't always look like monsters. Lucas developed separation anxiety, terrified I'd disappear if he let me out of his sight. He'd panic if I was even 5 minutes late picking him up from school. We moved to California to be near Beth. New school, new neighborhood, new start. But we were different now. Warrior, more cautious. The children had no interest in making friends with adults. They viewed every act of kindness with suspicion. I got them a therapist who specialized in manipulation and gaslighting victims. Slowly, very slowly, we began to heal. Emma learned to trust her own judgment again. Lucas learned that I wasn't going anywhere. I learned to forgive myself for letting Tom into our lives. A year after the trial, Emma asked me a question that broke my heart all over again. Mom, do you think Tom ever actually loved us, or were we just things to him? I wanted to lie, to protect her from the truth, but she'd been lied to enough. I think Tom is sick in a way that means he can't really love people the way healthy people do. He wanted to own you, not love you. She nodded, processing this. I loved him though, like a dad. Was that wrong? No, baby. You loved who you thought he was. That's not wrong. That's human. 2 years have passed now. Emma is 9, Lucas 7. They're doing better. Emma is cautious but learning to open up again. She's made friends at school, though she's still uncomfortable around adult men. Lucas barely remembers Tom now, which is a blessing. I still have nightmares sometimes, wondering what would have happened if Beth hadn't visited, if I hadn't noticed the signs, if Tom had been just a little bit smarter. He came so close to taking them, so close to destroying us. The therapist says we're resilient, that we survived something horrible and came out the other side. But I know we're not the same family we were before Tom. We're scarred, careful, always watching for signs of deception. Sometimes Emma still speaks Spanish, teaching Lucas words and phrases, but never the ones Tom taught her. Those she's deliberately forgotten, along with his promises, his lies, his love. Last week, she drew a picture of our family for a school project, just the 3 of us, her, me, and Lucas. When the teacher asked if she wanted to add anyone else, she said no. This is my whole family, she said firmly. This is everyone who really loves me. We survived Tom. We survived his manipulation, his lies, his attempt to steal my children. But more than that, we survived the aftermath, the broken trust, the shattered innocence, the long road back to feeling safe. Tom is still in prison. He'll be out in 2 more years. The restraining order means he can never contact us, but I still check over my shoulder. I still study every new neighbor carefully. I still panic when the kids are 5 minutes late from school. But we're together. We're healing. And no one, no charming neighbor, no helpful stranger, no wolf in sheep's clothing, will ever tear us apart again. My children know now that real love doesn't require secret phones or whispered lies. Real love doesn't turn children against their parents. Real love doesn't come with conditions and manipulations. They learned this lesson too young, too harshly, but they learned it. And in the end, that knowledge might just save them from the next Tom who crosses their path. Because there will be a next one. There always is. The world is full of people who prey on vulnerability, who see single mothers as easy targets, who view children as possessions to be won. But we're not easy targets anymore, we're survivors. And we have each other. That's what Tom never understood. He thought he could replace me, that he could become their everything. But the bond between a mother and her children, even when strained, even when manipulated, is stronger than his lies. In the end, love won. Real love. Messy, imperfect, unshakable love. And that's something Tom, sitting in his prison cell planning his next manipulation, will never understand.